25 years ago today at exactly 5:04 p.m., a powerful 6.9 magnitude earthquake roared across the entire Bay Area. The Loma Prieta earthquake was responsible for 63 deaths, 3,700 injuries, and an estimated $6 billion in damage. Game 3 of the World Series was about to get underway at Candlestick Park. Due to the media coverage of the A's and Giants in the series, it became the first major earthquake in the U.S. that was broadcast live on national television. Rush hour traffic on the Bay Area freeways was lighter than normal due to nearly 62,000 people present at the game, as well as maybe hundreds of thousands watching on TV around the Bay Area. This may have prevented a larger loss of life, as several of the Bay Area's major transportation structures suffered catastrophic failures. A section of the upper deck of the Bay Bridge collapsed onto the deck below. In Oakland, a 1-mile section of the upper deck of the Cypress Freeway collapsed onto the lower deck. Nearby residents and factory workers and Oakland Public Works employees came to the rescue, climbing onto the wreckage with ladders and forklifts and pulling trapped people out of their mangled cars. Significant damage closed San Francisco's Embarcadero Freeway, never to reopen. Well, all Bay Area airports closed until the next morning to inspect damage. Muni lost all power but was able to restore full service after 3 days. In San Francisco's Marina District, several buildings collapsed, while at the intersection of Beach and Divisadero, a natural gas main rupture caused a major structure fire. Bystanders helped the fire department run fire hoses from a distance when the nearby hydrant system failed. Water from the bay was pumped by the fireboat Phoenix to engines on the shore, and from there sprayed on the fire, thus saving the rest of the neighborhood. 25 years later, San Francisco and the Bay Area are rebuilt better than ever. Don't you think? I do too. So before we hear from our esteemed guests behind me, I want to acknowledge the people who came together to create today's event and who work every day to make San Francisco prepared and resilient. First of all, the San Francisco Department of Emergency Management and the American Red Cross Bay Area and the Salvation Army for organizing this event, and PG&E for their generous sponsorship. Give them a nice hand. Then there is this beautiful new structure, the Exploratorium, for providing a beautiful venue for today's event and for providing a place for families to learn about science, including the science of earthquakes. Let's hear it for the Exploratorium. Then we have the fire department's NERT program and the police department's ALERT program. They're volunteering here today, and they'll provide critical assistance to our first responders during a disaster. Let's hear it for NERT and ALERT. Great bunch. We also have several members of San Francisco's city family who have joined us today. Supervisors Eric Marr and Scott Wiener, Assessor Carmen Chu, Treasurer Jose Cisneros, Sheriff Ross Mercarimi, City Administrator Naomi Kelly, SFPUC General Manager Harlan Kelly, Fire Chief Joanne Hayes White, Police Deputy Chief Lynn Tomioka, MTA Director Ed Riskin, and DPW Director Mohammed Nuru. Let's hear it for those folks. I would also like to welcome our state and federal representatives, FEMA Region 9 Acting Administrator Karen Arms, Cal OES Regional Administrator Jody Traversero, thank you. A little mix up there. And staffs representing Senator Dianne Feinstein and State Senator Mark Leno. Let's give those people a nice hand, those reps. Now, right now, we have a little invocation we'd like to start this afternoon with, and to do that, would you please welcome very warmly San Francisco's Interfaith Council Executive Director, Mr. Michael Pappas. Michael.
Let us bow our heads in prayer. Almighty Creator of the universe and all that dwells within it, you who did fix the earth on its foundation and entrusted your creation as its stewards, we are humbled when the forces of nature temporarily shift the ground upon which we walk, and in those moments of vulnerability are reminded of our own limitations as mere mortals. And yet, having fashioned us in your image and likeness, you have endowed us with the creative spirit of resilience to see beyond temporary suffering, that through our relationships with one another, we might, like the phoenix rising from the ashes, emerge from such moments of uncertainty stronger and with greater commitment to seek the greater good rather than that which only satisfies our personal desires. On this, the 25th anniversary observance of Loma Prieta, we gather as a community to pause and reflect. We pause and reflect today upon our 63 sisters and brothers who lost their lives in that tragic day. Inscribe their names in your book of life and let their memory shine for eternal. We pause and reflect today upon those who risked their lives and then and now to protect our citizenry, in particular our firefighters and police force. In turn, we pray that you grant them discernment when called to make critical decisions and shelter them when they encounter danger in the line of duty. We pause and reflect today upon the visionary leadership of all those entrusted with public office and service, those bridge builders who for the past quarter of a century brought us together as a city when we were tired and downtrodden, built consensus, made difficult decisions, and from the rubble engaged the best of our human potential to rebuild San Francisco, the city which today shines as a jewel among cities. We pause and reflect today upon the transformation of our human spirit as San Franciscans, a transformation that has ignited our collective zeal to build relationships, become ever so vigilant in developing neighborhood and citywide preparedness, and in the best tradition of the generosity of our forebears, to extend philanthropy. In all of these measures, we have sought to be faithful to our greater call to be co-creators with you, O Merciful One. At last, may we never forget, but rather always remember October 17th, 1989, not as a day of darkness or catastrophe, but rather as the dawn of a new era for our city and its people, an era of new beginnings, relationships, and resilience. This we pray, each in our own manner and tradition. Amen.
Very nice. Thank you, Director Michael Pappas of the Interfaith Council. Now next, we're going to move things over to our Honorable Mayor. He's going to tell us how the city has changed as a result of Loma Prieta and maybe talk about our new preparedness website, SF72. Please welcome the Honorable Mayor, Ed Lee, everybody. Let's hear it for him.
Bob, thank you very much, and thank you always for helping us commemorate 1906 and now today our Loma Prieta earthquake. It's my pleasure to join all of the speakers here, to join our fire chief, our police department, our Department of Emergency Management, and all of the different agencies together. That we use this commemoration not only to acknowledge the 63 lives that were lost in the Loma Prieta earthquake, but to also acknowledge the lives that were saved as a result of the great response that we gave to our city, and to remind ourselves, what do we have to do to get continually prepared? It begins, as Bob said earlier, that we have a communication device for all of our residents. SF72, the 72hour.org, is the way to communicate, to make sure that our residents are better prepared. Because we have learned valuable lessons from 1989, and we will not allow ourselves to suffer more of that, because we know that the earthquake is next to come. It is a question of when, not if. So what have we learned? We've learned that our brick buildings are vulnerable. We have fixed that. We are learning that our soft story buildings are still vulnerable. We are fixing that with an ordinance now that mandates those soft story buildings, just as we saw on the marina. We're not going to allow those to be vulnerable any longer. Thousands of lives, in fact, 60,000 residents' lives can be saved unless injuries caused when we mandate the retrofit of those buildings. Now we're turning our attention to our students, not just public school students, private school students as well. They're still our students in our city. And we're going to turn our attention to helping our private schools make sure that they're going to be safer. We have 72hour.org to teach all of our residents. Guess what? Every year there's a new generation of people. I was under the desk yesterday, literally, with the newest middle graders from our Marina Middle School, and they are literally drawing maps of their homes, where the escape routes are. They're checklisting with their parents what they should do in case an earthquake happens or any great disaster happens. They're training themselves with their families. This is what we need to see. I join with our fire department's NERT program. I join with the neighborhood empowerment networks that are going on throughout all of our communities. I join all of the wonderful, important, absolutely necessary things that our Department of Emergency Management is doing to help prepare us. Because it cannot just be 911. It cannot just be police and fire. It has to be every neighborhood stepping up and saying, we will help save ourselves the first 72 hours. We will get to a point where this city is always training and retraining each other. And while they're doing that, and while we are having probably the most successful economic recovery that a city can ever have, whether it's the giants helping us, or whether it's, yes, the mid-market revival, whether it's these tech companies or bio life sciences, this recovery allows us to charge a resiliency officer with a great grant from the Rockefeller Foundation and say, we're going to be even more resilient as a city. We're going to look around the corner, as DEM is always saying, and see what's next that we can help save lives, be more resilient, find out what we have to do so that we reduce fear and utilize the economic recovery of our city and say, let's not deal in fear. Let's deal with opportunity to save more lives. This is how we should meet all of our challenges. And I want to say to everybody, all the volunteer organizations from the community-based groups, the neighborhood leaderships, to our citywide departments, let's keep working on all these things together. Let's keep having those conversations, identify what we need to do, and I will be your mayor to make sure that we invest properly. If we do that investment properly, we reduce that fear, we elevate awareness and education, we utilize more people, we drive them to the 72.org opportunities, the information we have there. Then our Department of Building Inspection, our Public Works, our city administrator, our resiliency officers can then work with police, fire, Department of Emergency Management, all of them work together to really invest properly. We are spending $25 billion in the 10-year capital plan to make sure our libraries are safe, our recreation and park department and the rec centers are safe, where the people go every single day. We're making sure all of those institutions, those infrastructures are safe. Where else do we need to invest? Well, I've got housing. I've got school systems. We have soft-story buildings. Those are proper investments. We just drove down to get here along Broadway, and I saw now the possibility of completing a family housing that used to be underneath the freeway ramp of that Broadway battery site. And that's an opportunity that we use to make sure that when we torn down the freeways and gotten it safer, let's make those opportunities for people to live even better in our city, and let's get those residents educated up. This is all a great time for our city. And as much as we say that we want Go Giants, we also doing our work to make sure that we are Go San Francisco in everything that we do to prepare for the next event. We do that because we love this city. We do that because we care about the residents. And this is what even our sports teams say. If we support each other, if we make sure that we care about each other and use every opportunity to do so, we're going to be a greater city, not just sports. We'll be a greater city in the aftermath of a great event. We'll be a greater city with all of the institutions that are surrounding us. We'll be a greater city to make sure that the lives lost and the people that we commemorate today, their experience in Loma Prieta will never be forgotten, but we honored them with looking forward to do even better. So that's why I say thank you to all of our speakers here, the sponsors, the agencies. Let's keep doing it. Let's make sure that we go forward and not only commemorate, but utilize that experience and be positive for all the positive investments that we make. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Mayor. Nice job. Thank you. Well, as you know, Mayor Lee is no fool. He mentioned the Giants twice. He knows how to get applause, okay? How about Michael Morse? How about Michael Morse hit that home run the other night? Travis Ishikawa. Mark Farrell. He'll be up here in a second. He's a hard-throwing right-hander from the Marina District who's a fellow SI Wildcat like myself. He's got a personal story about the earthquake and when it happened, and he's going to announce some plans for a memorial. So would you please welcome your own supervisor, Mark Farrell, everybody?
Okay. Thanks, Bob. I want to thank everyone for being here today. You know, the 1989 earthquake affected us all in so many ways. It affected us as a state of California, as a city of San Francisco. I say this as someone who grew up in the Marina District. It affected us in our neighborhoods as well. I was on the way back from football practice in high school with my mother at the 22nd and Irving Market buying some fruit. And sure enough, the earthquake started to happen. And we thought there was no big deal until we got back to the Marina District and we turned off of what was then Doyle Drive, and we saw the devastation that was happening in our streets, the second-story windows that were down on the ground on Baker. And we saw all of the devastation that happened throughout the Marina District. And it transformed a neighborhood within San Francisco. And it affects us all in so many ways. And I want to take a very special moment to thank, in particular, all of our first responders that are here today, but in particular, our fire department that helped truly save our Marina District, led today by Chief Joanna Hayes-White. And the Phoenix fireboat that parked right outside of the Marina Green that truly saved our Marina District and pumped the water from the bay into our district that's been memorialized in Frankie the Phoenix, the story in our books. And I want to also thank the members of our community that have come together since then. As Michael Pappas mentioned, the Phoenix that came out of the ashes of the devastation that happened in the Marina District, what came since then really has bonded us together, not only as a neighborhood, but as a city. Our NERT classes formed after the 1989 earthquake. And I want to thank not only our fire department, but those founding members of our NERT classes, from the Maxwells, to the Goldings, to the Kennedys. Isabel is here as well. I want to thank everyone that has participated, because this is us as a community now, as San Francisco coming together. It's not just our first responders, but it's all of us as a community to making sure that we are here together into the future as we remember, but also as we prepare for the next earthquake that's going to come. And what also came out of the earthquake was a remembrance in the Marina District. And as someone who grew up in the Marina, and my parents still live in the same house I grew up in, close to the Palace of Fine Arts, remembering is a core part of what we do and preparing for the future. And one of the community aspects that came out was the idea around an earthquake memorial, a memorial around the Marina Green that will remember those first responders, and in particular the fire department, that truly did save our district, that saved our neighborhood from even further devastation, but also reminded us that we need to prepare for the future. And so today I'm happy to announce, in partnership with Mayor Ed Lee, and I want to thank the mayor for his strong support of this project, that we are going to build a Marina Earthquake Memorial along the Marina Green, dedicated to the firefighters that saved our district, but also making sure that everyone that steps there remembers what happened, but also prepares for our future. And I want to acknowledge those members. We have a steering committee for the Marina Earthquake Memorial that is here today. I want to acknowledge everyone from the steering committee. If you want to stand up real quick and recognize yourselves in front of everybody. As well as the artists that are here today that are going to be designing the Marina Earthquake Memorial as well. This is a memorial, again, that not only teaches us to remember, but is also rooted in the history of the Marina District. And I think will serve us well as we look on the waterfront out in front of the bay in terms of what we look for as a future. And I want to thank everyone that's involved in this project. It means a ton for our neighborhood, but I think it means even more for the city of San Francisco. The timeline right now, we're going to finalize our design before the end of this year and break ground in 2015. And I welcome everyone to that groundbreaking next year. And I want to thank everyone for being here today. And I want to thank again Mayor Lee and Chief Hayes-White for all their support today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mark. You know, well, the time is just about here. In a minute, I'm going to bring up my very good friend, Fire Chief Joanne Hayes-White, to talk about the NERT program and acknowledge the NERT leaders that are in attendance this afternoon. But I'd like to do a couple of songs off my album right now. Just, we have about a minute until 5:04, so in lieu of actually bringing another speaker, I'm going to bring up my good friend Joanne Hayes-White. Would you come up for a second, just for a minute? And can you explain maybe what the significance of the ringing of the bells are and how you're going to do that? That'll get us up to 5:04, I think.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And I will be speaking again after to acknowledge a lot of people, but it gives me great pleasure. I was just asked recently to ring the bell, and it's in commemoration for the lives lost in 1989. And so I will be doing that at 5:04 to signify the 25th commemoration of what happened here 25 years ago.
Cool. If you're going to, would you like to step down and get ready for that, Chief? This is for the lives and the property lost and how indeed lucky we are to live here with these folks that we featured this afternoon to guide us. And the moment of silence will follow the ringing of the bell. Today's a celebration of how far we have come since Loma Prieta. San Francisco and the Bay Area are rebuilt stronger and more vibrant than ever with new buildings, new roads, and new public spaces. So here it is. It's about 10 seconds to 5:04, and Chief White knows how to do this, and let's have it begin now. And now a moment of silence. Let's bow our heads. Thank you very much, everybody. Now it is my pleasure to bring up here to the podium one of my good friends and a great person, the Fire Chief Joanne Hayes-White, to discuss the creation of NERT and some of those leaders in attendance. Chief, let's hear it for her. A nice hand for her.
Thanks, Bob. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for that very solemn moment. It's a pleasure to be here today. I think everyone remembers where they were, what they were doing 25 years ago. I was not in the fire department. I was about 5 months before I was hired. I was coaching volleyball for Urban High School, and we had a big game at Lick Wilmerding High School. The lights went out. The gymnasium shook, and all of us exited. And it's a perfect segue because, as you know, Lick Wilmerding is right near Ocean and Phelan, and the lights were also out at that busy intersection. But what I saw and what I witnessed, and I knew that I was going to be entering the fire department a few months later, was our great community. People just automatically stepped up and started helping one another. What can I do? Randomly, people began manning at the intersections and directing traffic. And I said, what a great city that I'm proud to be a native San Franciscan in. When I entered the fire department, very shortly thereafter, in 1990, what came of the Loma Prieta earthquake was the ability to recognize how wonderful our community is, how engaged it is. And from that, the NERT program was born, the Neighborhood Emergency Response Team program. Very proud to have been one of the original instructors, and it is an incredible program. People helping people, getting prepared in your neighborhoods, in your workplaces, and spreading the word about how important it is to be prepared, because we all know the more prepared we are, the easier it is to respond, and the quicker we move into the recovery phase. So for all of you that have participated in the NERT program and are proud members of our program, please stand up or raise your hand to be acknowledged, because my hat is off to you. This is completely voluntary, so thank you so much. And the program itself was started, I don't know if any of I'm going to get to the current NERT person at the very end, but I did want to acknowledge all her predecessors. The NERT program was started by Lieutenant Frank Lucier, who was in charge of the program, so I wanted to acknowledge Frank Lucier, Juanita Hodge, Greg Aoyang, and Patty Ewan to have brought the program to where it is. But when I became the chief of department in 2004, I hand-selected our current and probably most senior NERT coordinator, and that is Lieutenant Erica Articeros. Where are you, Erica? Thank you very much. It's not just a job for Erica, it is her passion. I'm so proud to be working with you and for all that you do, for the lives that you've changed. Thank you so much. Also to the NERT Executive Board, for keeping us safe and spreading the word about how important it is to be prepared. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge a few people. Some of them have already been mentioned, but I'd like to acknowledge Dennis Kennedy, who is retired from the fire department as our marine engineer, and his wife Nancy that are here today. Thank you, original nerds. And as well as the Goldines, Mark and Gail, thank you for all that you do for our wonderful city and for recognizing early on the importance of SF Safe and NERT, and as well as your neighbors. Seated behind the Goldines is someone that I didn't have the opportunity to work with, but truly a legend in the San Francisco Fire Department, and it looks like he's with family because there's no denying you as the son of Assistant Chief Frank Blackburn. Frank, if you don't know, was passionate about the portable water supply system, and that system, as Supervisor Farrell described, saved the marina. Was able to would pump copious amounts of water from the bay and use a portable hydrant system when the mains failed in the marina to be able to suppress the fire. So thank you for being here. I'm sure it's a very special day for all of you. I'd also like to acknowledge my colleagues that are here from so many city departments. We work together very collaboratively, I would say better than we ever have, and that's under the direction of the executive side of the government. Mayor Lee, who was a former department head, director of public works, very hands-on mayor, very much prioritizes public safety and our ability to work together, not only under emergency conditions, but on an everyday basis. And forming those relationships in a non-emergency makes all of us work together in emergency situations. And also, I see Supervisor Marr, who's here, who's also a champion of public safety, and certainly our Marina District Supervisor, Mark Farrell, also a native San Franciscan. So I also see that there's a little friendly competition going on between the police and fire and some of the other people from our community. It looks like there's going to be a cook-off. Of course, you know who I'm going to be rooting for. So with that, I would just like to say thank you for coming out and to spread the message again. It's a perfect opportunity to encourage your neighbors to avail themselves of the wonderful NERT program, to go on a website and take a look at what the city and the Department of Emergency Management under Ann Cronenberg has put together. There's no excuse to not be prepared. And as good citizens, we need to have a plan in our workplaces and in our homes, with our families, with our pets. So we would encourage you to do so, and always keep in mind those that did lose their life and suffer loss 25 years ago today, and never forget them. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We are going to have some fun in a few minutes here, which we'll do right over to our left. I'll be putting on a chef's hat and an outfit, which is really worth the price of admission, so hang in there for that. I do want to finish up kind of fittingly to talk about the partnership between PG&E, which is one of our sponsors here, and the American Red Cross Bay Area. So to that end, would you please welcome the CEO of the American Red Cross Bay Area, that's Mark Cloutier, and PG&E Vice President of Emergency Preparedness and Response, Barry Anderson. Gentlemen, come on up.
Good evening. I'm just curious, I'd like to see a show of hands of the people who were here on the actual event. So a majority of people were here. And what you may recall was after the earthquake, the American Red Cross volunteers, many of whom were personally impacted, began working side by side with our community partners to take care of people in need. In the weeks and months that followed, almost 8,000 Red Cross volunteers provided life-saving medical supplies, housed nearly 70,000 people, served over 600,000 meals, and distributed blankets, food, and clothing to 15,000 families. And that was neighbors helping neighbors. The American Red Cross is really about training people in preparedness, bringing people in to be volunteers, and people literally turning around with the skills to help their neighbors. We also helped to rebuild and fund a number of homes in various communities around the Bay Area, as well as drilling for new wells and repairing water pumps. Big disasters become more about people coming together than it is about cities falling apart. Because of Loma Prieta, we became stronger and more resilient. Look around you. You can see it here today. Getting ready for the next disaster at home, at school, and at work is very crucial, and no one agency can do it alone. That is why we're here and so proud to have our partnerships with the City and County of San Francisco, City of Oakland, California Earthquake Authority, and Pacific Gas and Electric, and the Salvation Army, to name a few. Let me say a little more about PG&E. For more than 4 decades, PG&E has been an invaluable partner to the American Red Cross in helping us respond and prepare to disasters. Together, through our award-winning Ready Neighborhoods initiative, we reached over 1 million community members with emergency preparedness activities, and we established the relationships in those communities that are so essential to the ability of our communities to recover and be stronger after natural disasters. The result is a culture through which neighbors help neighbors. And because of that, we're all more prepared because each are equipped with the knowledge we need as well as the valuable connections to our communities. No matter what happens, no matter what's lost, let's all be there for each other by committing to be prepared and encourage our loved ones to be prepared also. Thank you for coming here this evening.
Well, thank you very much, Mark. Our relationship with Red Cross is extremely important, and as been mentioned today, PG&E has been doing a lot since 1989 to get prepared. A few areas that you may note would be our construction standards have improved. We use different materials, so our electric and gas lines are more resilient to an earthquake. We integrate technology such as our Picaro gas detection unit that can rapidly detect gas leaks. We've also have really increased our damage modeling capabilities so we understand the magnitude of an earthquake right after it occurs. There's probably nothing more important, though, than the work we do with our local first responders, our police and fire teams, to make sure that we do training and exercises to make sure that we're prepared, and of course work with the Red Cross to make sure that communities are up and running. We saw this about 6 weeks ago after the Napa earthquake. Many things came together, and it all centers around planning, relationships, training, and making sure as a company we show up to bring our communities back up to their normal running capabilities. And with that, I'll turn it back to Bob.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. Good job. All right. How about a nice hand for all of our speakers this afternoon? You know, we do live in a great place. Let's be proud of our community and look ahead to our bright future. And thank you for attending LP 25 Loma Prieta Commemoration. We do want you to stick around, though, because over to my left,